everybody. Welcome again to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves, and my partner in crime is Mr.
Hey, I'm John Webster. Gary, how you doing, man? It's great to be here again this week. I know we have some exciting topics to talk about in sports. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't say hello to our producer, Mr. John Pitt.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's happening? Big John.
Hello.
All right. Well, before we start, first of all, thank you all for your support. Without your support, this wouldn't be possible. Well, not totally possible, but spread the word about the Daily Deuce to your friends, relatives, co-workers, and come back and see us because we got a lot to talk about. We have opinions, we have facts, and it's something that everybody is talking about around the water cooler. By the way, are water coolers still around, John?
Not right now, Gary. You may look at the water cooler, but you're not going to probably drink out of the water cooler.
Yeah, that's probably true. Actually, that's very true. I don't know what I would drink of that I didn't already clean first. Well, speaking of water, and we'll get to that, we're going to talk about Olympic swimming, but let's start off with the Olympics. Okay, everything, most sports are in the throes of competition, swimming, basketball, diving. But of course, the biggest story this week has been gymnastics and Simone Biles and her withdrawal, first from team competition, then secondly from the individual all around. It remains to be seen whether she participates in any individual events next week. Her reasons for pulling out, much debated about her mental health that she cites, after a shaky beginning round with qualifying, uncharacteristic falls, slips, things like that. She stepped back, she looked at herself and just basically said, enough is enough. Right now, I've got to step back. I've got to look out for me. That has sparked debate in many quarters about the reasons. We're not here to really discuss that. We're really here to talk about some of the fallout from it, the discussion from it, and what really has to be done. I mean, did it really kind of open up a can of discussion about athletes' mental health? Something that, John, you and I, we played sports in eras where, we had to suck it up. There were no such thing as muscle cramps. We were given salt pills. We were given water, everything to keep us on the field or on the court. Our coaches, supporters, and that kind of thing did it. I mean, we fought through it in different ways. Nowadays, they don't have to do it. But the discussion really has to do with again, people trying to scrutinize a 24-year-old woman who is the most accomplished gymnast, women's gymnast of all time, and really her reasons for it. We've heard quitter. We've heard that she bailed on her teammates and that kind of thing. Even her GOAT status, greatest of all time status, is being debated. For what it's worth to me, John, that's unfair. What do you think? And what do you think a lot of this discussion is about?
Well, Gary, it's it's really unfortunate what's going on. Simone Biles pulled out of her gymnastics competition, and it was because of her mental health. I am one that I've said, and I will continue to say, mental health has to be recognized and respected. It's something that is going on. It has always gone on, but sometimes it's been swept underneath the rug. I give Simone Biles a lot of credit for what she did. It takes a very determined person and a very strong person to do what she did and to recognize what she was going through. I think I've said to you, Gary, the mind is also a part of your body. Your mind has to be healthy, just like your limbs and your ankles and your feet and your legs. You have to have a healthy mind as well. And for those that think that you don't, those that think that Simone Biles is a quitter, or as I guess the gentleman from Texas, I think it was the Attorney General. I think I may be paraphrasing. I don't know if I have it correct, all totally correct, as a national embarrassment. I don't agree with
Which
that.
was a cheap shot, by the
Yeah,
way.
I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong to say this about a kid. I'm sorry, Gary. You're right. A young lady. You and me are old as dirt, man. So, I call her a kid. I don't mean it disrespectfully, but she's young and she's got a bright future ahead of her. Michael Phelps said it best the other day. He said, "It's okay to not be okay."
Yeah.
And I think that put it pretty much in a nutshell as far as what's going on. You know, some people still think maybe we're in the 70s or the 80s. Like anything else in life, you move forward. Like anything else in life, there is change. And again, mental health is something that needs to be recognized, respected, and dealt with. Mental health is just as important as your shooting arm, as your feet, as your shoulder. It is just as important, and you need to have your mental health at all times.
Indeed. And it really gets me, John, when people, again, who have never tumbled in their lives, want to criticize someone who has won championships and competed on broken toes, with a kidney stone, with all kinds of ailments, and has won, again, so more medals than I can even list here, in world championships and the Olympics. And she finally recognized, hey, I'm important. And like you said with Michael Phelps, yeah, he said it best. Actually, Naomi Osaka, kind of said it a few weeks ago in terms of talking about pulling out of the French Open, not competing at Wimbledon and such. When she was being scrutinized for not doing media interviews. And if you get a chance to watch the documentary on her, and I believe it's on Netflix, it really does offer an insight into her world and in terms of what she has to face, the kind of scrutiny, not just as a tennis player, but again, as like one of the top 4 tennis players in the world. And it's a lot to put on someone that age. I mean, if you go back and ask Venus or Serena Williams, I'm sure it was the same. For that matter, even of Federer, I bet if you asked him what it was like, or Roger Federer, he would probably say that it was tough. Michael Phelps, most decorated swimmer of all time, had to go through. He talked about his depression. There's a lot more to it. If you've got something going on in your mind, that puts that seed of doubt into you, you're not going to succeed. Simone Biles has fought through it and become the greatest of all time, and nobody should really take that away. Not some dolt in Texas, who he had to apologize for it, but by then the damage had already been done because it fed into to her critics. I don't know, again, why this kind of stuff comes up in the first place, but everybody wants to feel like they've got an opinion, that their opinion matters in this. And it's like Daniel Patrick Moynihan said, everybody can have their own opinion, but they can't have their own facts.
Yeah. And, I'll share this with you, Gary. I heard a conversation. You mentioned Naomi Osaka, if I said her name correctly. She pulled out of a tennis tournament a couple months ago. And the comment the person made was, well, let me see. I want to see now how many she'll win now. So she's admitted that she's not strong mentally. And I said to the person, how do you come up with that rationale? How do you all of a sudden determine that this person is not strong mentally because she didn't just, like in the 70s, put some dirt and spit on it and then keep going? I mean, that's just not how things work. And as a society, we all move forward and we all grow and learn. And I can't stress enough, mental health is as important as any other part of health that you have, not only in sports, but in life.
Indeed, indeed. And I think USA Gymnastics, the IOC, well, the USOC, they really need to come up with a system to give support to these athletes, to these gymnasts, male and female, um, to deal with the pressures that they face representing not only the United States but representing their sport. Because again, whether it's Simone Biles or now Suni Lee, the newest Olympic all-around champion, that success is one thing, maintaining that success and consistency is another thing. And there has to be a mental support system in place to help them stay at that level. And that's something, again, I hope is the upshot of all this, is that it opens up that discussion, and that, Simone Biles can be maybe the face of that, as well as she's been for her sport, these past 4 or 5 years. Moving on, in the Olympics, we have, well, you look at swimming, and we've won our share of medals in swimming, but again, athletes there are being questioned. Katie Ledecky, who won a gold medal last night or early this morning, whatever your time zone is, that because she lost one of her races, because she was beaten in another race, and by lost I mean where she didn't even medal, that some people kind of question whether she was propped up a little too much as well. My feeling is that she won a marathon race, the 1500, and won it pretty much going away. Fine, she didn't win a couple of sprints. She still has 2 gold medals. The last I checked, there are still a couple more events. Again, she can still do what she can still accomplish what's left there. I guess the question, John, is: did we expect too much of the swimming team, the women's swimming team? Well, both swim teams, or is this just kind of something that, hey, the playing field is level, and of course, this is something that really should have happened last summer?
Well, you bring up some very key points, Gary. Last one, this Olympics is going on now, and as you said, it should have happened last summer, right?
Correct.
It should have happened last summer. Matter of fact, I see in the backgrounds of some of these events, they have Tokyo 2020. So they're still advertising as it was last year. I think you have a combination of things, to be honest with you. One, countries have caught up, with the United States. I think also when you look at the United States right now, like a medal count, they got 14 gold, 14 silver, and 10 bronze, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's 38 medals. 38 medals makes them in first place. First place with the most medals. And that's nothing to sneeze at. That's nothing to sneeze at. I think we as a country are so used to dominating everything. I think what we want to do sometimes, and you and I are probably guilty of it as well, Gary, where we relive the past and we want to hold on to the past sometimes, the good old days. So we sit and we remember 4 years ago or 8 years ago, Katie Ledecky and Michael Phelps and all the medals that they won. And we want to continue to think that they're still the same person. Phelps is not competing now, and Ledecky has gotten older. That's not to say she's not as good, but she's gotten older, and other countries have caught up some, and she's still doing a good job, in my opinion. She won, was it the 1500, Gary? She won the 1500.
Yeah.
She got a gold medal. And then the other 2 that she lost, she got 2 silver medals. So, we expect a lot in this country. And we it's fair. We all expect a lot because we think we should always win. I mean, we have you didn't bring it up, but I'll segue just for a second to it. You have the same problem going on that basketball court on the men's side, where you expect them to just walk on the court. You and I had this conversation a couple weeks ago. Walk on the court. It says Team USA on the front of the jersey. That should be an automatic gold medal. That's not how it works. That's
Nope.
just not how it works. And you have other countries who are just as just as determined as the United States.
Yeah. And, again, it's like, I think the thing about the Olympics that it's supposed to be a battle of the best nations, the best athletes. But I say, in certain sports, like say basketball, yeah, we had an advantage for a huge number of years. I mean, you take away maybe 1972 and maybe 1988. 1972 will always be disputed for how that game was decided.
Mhm.
But again, it's like with sports, whether it's baseball or basketball, two sports that we were supposed to dominate, that you see other nations catching up and competing with us, and in a lot of cases beating us. In swimming, it's if it wasn't the United States, it was Australia. But now you're seeing China, you're seeing Japan. I think you even saw what Tunisia, win a gold medal in swimming. So that tells you pretty much how level the water has become, so to speak. And I think that's a good thing for the Olympics. Trust me, it is not going to take away from Katie Ledecky's legacy, to have finished second or even third in a couple of events. Because, like I said, I watched her win that 1500 going away, and she had that one pretty much locked up even before the halfway point. She could have treaded water and still won by about 6 or 7 lengths.
Sure.
In my view, I mean, that might be hyperbole, but she's still strong. U.S. swimming is still strong. But again, you're going to have some wobbles because some teams, they've just improved. And Australia has always been a contender.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree, Gary. Totally agree.
Well, let's see. What's coming up next? Oh, yeah. In probably less than 2 hours, the NBA draft will commence. I guess the biggest question is which team will take Cade Cunningham and who goes behind him. But, John, as we've seen with any draft, but particularly in the NBA draft, that you've got guys that get drafted, lottery picks, so to speak, and then they get traded. So, what's the latest that you've heard on some of the NBA trade rumors, and who do you think will be the top 3 picks?
Well, I think when I look at the picks, I'm looking at Cade Cunningham, I'm looking at Evan Mosley, and I'm looking at the kid Jalen Green. I think those will probably be your 3 top picks. Mosley played at USC, Cunningham played at Oklahoma State, and Green played in the G League. So I think those are the 3 top picks. I don't see anybody in the draft right now that is going to be a dominant game changer. I mean, Cunningham is going to the Detroit Pistons. That's a franchise that is trying their best to try to turn it around, Gary. That's about the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
We'll see. They're going to need, in Detroit, you need more than just Cade Cunningham. So we'll see how that goes for them. But those are the 3 top picks that I see. What do you see, Gary?
Well, having seen Cade Cunningham in a tournament in person, I definitely think he's the kind of guy that can help lead a turnaround in much the same manner that Trae Young has done with the Atlanta Hawks. And they're not the same type of players, but they can. But the things that they can do are kind of similar in terms of helping other guys pick up the pace. They could play at a faster level, hopefully play at a more efficient level. Cunningham, I think, is a talent, is one of those talents that he involves everybody in the game, I think he can do wherever he goes. I think he can be that kind of player. I think when I look at, like, again, these top maybe 10 picks, you're looking at guys that can play specific roles with the team. They're not franchise guys per se, but they could be. But right now they have to learn the pro game, learn what their role is, and go from there. Some of them, I mean, you look at what Devin Booker has become in his time, and everybody. I remember when he was drafted, everybody was like, Devin who? And for that matter, here in Kentucky, he didn't even start. That's been pointed out a whole lot, but hopefully this year's draft is seen as what it's supposed to be, something to help you build a team, not necessarily turn it around right away.
Well, I agree with you, and I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You have some good players, and you have some very good players in this draft, but I don't think you have anybody in it right now that I see who is a game changer, who can just come in and change it all by themselves. I think Cade Cunningham is the best player coming out without a doubt, and he was unbelievable at Oklahoma State. I just had to see how that's going to transcend in the NBA. I think he's going to be a good player. Will he be a great player? That's going to remain to be seen. And I don't see this draft. You have some players there, but I don't know if you have players that are, can do it all by themselves. They're going to need help. So we'll have to see. And you have some interesting scenarios coming up with these players. You got some interesting trades that are possibly coming up. There's rumor about Westbrook going to the Lakers now. Bradley Beal just said not too long ago, earlier today, that he is opting to stay in with the Washington Wizards, the Washington Bullets. So I give him credit for loyalty, but if that's the case, he won't be there when they finally get to be good. I said to my son earlier, if what I'm hearing is true and he's opting to stay in, he is going to be the Ernie Banks of basketball. So he'll be great and he'll be loved in DC, but I don't see them winning a championship with him before he retires.
No, you're right. I mean, and yeah, he might indeed be a placeholder for this franchise. Be honest, I haven't really followed too much of the speculation around him, I mean, other than, like, say, where they thought he might be going. But to hear that he might stay in Washington, might want to stay in Washington, says something about the organization, and maybe says something about him.
It says a lot about him, Gary. I mean, and when I
Yeah,
say that,
I mean, and we never thought we'd be saying that about Michael Westbrook. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sorry, Russell
Westbrook.
Westbrook. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I went to another sport. I'm sorry, Russell Westbrook.
yeah.
Yeah,
It says a lot about Beal that he's willing to stay. I mean, that says a lot to me. And he is nothing but, he's absolutely the face of this organization. And I just feel bad because I do not think if Westbrook goes, and that's pretty much looking like they're going to end up in a rebuild, I don't think they get it turned around in time before he retires. Or if they do, he's at the end of his career.
yeah. I mean, that's a sad reality about pro sports in general, but definitely in the NBA. I'm just hoping that a new coaching staff, that that they really take a good look at what they have. If they can rework some contracts to to try to keep the nucleus of this team together. That was a competitive team. They showed potential, even though the record didn't necessarily show it. But again, they made the playoffs, and that's something, again, nobody even 3 months ago could have expected from this team. But I think that says a lot about the players that they have and how much they really want to play and really overcome a lot of those low expectations for them.
Yeah,
Well,
you're right.
speaking of expectations, we are, I guess, our expectations for the Washington Nationals as we approach the trade deadline on Saturday, that you said it a while back that, they weren't going to contend. They were looking good at that time, but since then we've kind of seen the team fall off. One injury, several injuries really did them in. Kyle Schwarber. Now we have Steven Strasburg out for the season and needing surgery. And in recent days, their pitching staff, Max Scherzer probably won't be in Washington by week's end. Brad Hand was dealt today to the Toronto Blue Jays. That might please some people that piled on him after he was a gas can in a couple of games in the past week or so. But, John, for me, I don't know if this is a gutting of talent, but obviously the Nationals are sellers. And the upside of this is that they can gain prospects. Is that enough for a team that's 2 years removed from winning a World Series with a lot of guys, with a lot of players that folks in Washington and in Major League Baseball had become accustomed to seeing and thinking this is the future of the team, namely Juan Soto and Trey Turner?
Well, first, what I want to do is back up because I like the Nationals, but we all know who my favorite baseball team is. Okay, so with that being said, Gary Graves, I have a question for you. What do you think tilted the Nationals to where they are now, where they have to sell? Do you know what really tilted them there, Gary Graves? Do you know what did it to them?
Lack of hitting, for one,
but do you know
and the recurrence of a shaky bullpen? Let's think back two summers ago, John, when they were 19-31 and they were blowing games left and right. And I remember at Memorial Day that Davey Martinez was being speculated, to be fired by them. Yep. Of course, everybody said, "Oh, they'll get healthy, they'll turn it around," which they did. The rest is history. You don't have that now. Schwarber, a number of guys. Joe Ross has been out. Strasburg has yet another injury that he'll be sidelined for the rest of the season.
Trey Turner.
Yeah, Trey Turner, of course. And now you're dealing with a COVID outbreak that has like several players on there. I try to look at the positive and say, in spite of that, they're only 8 games under 500, and that at this point, if you can get a team close to 500, get this team close to 500, you might as well see some kind of encouragement from that. That's a bright spot. Right now, I don't see that happening because once you start trading your pitchers, and when you're talking about what turned it around, it's like, okay, losing your top home run hitter, who was like hot as can be, that definitely hurt the Nationals. But then they started losing other players, and then their pitchers start getting hurt. When you have all that, injuries are really something, even in a 162 game season.
Yep.
And the Nationals, I think last weekend when they got swept by those Baltimore Orioles.
Say it again.
Yeah. I'm gonna only say it once, but that was, but that was like the bottoming out for this team.
Yeah.
And that's when they became sellers. And we'll see what happens. I don't know if fans that became so spoiled by a World Series title will be patient enough to stick around through a rebuild. Hopefully it's not a huge rebuild, but if they're going to try to salvage something from this team, lock up Turner and Soto to long-term deals. They seem to want to stay here. Even Schwarber, who's been mentioned as trade bait to the Yankees, he wants to stay here. Look at the positives. Look at what you have, and try to keep those guys together and build around them, either through the farm system or through trades. And in unloading Brad Hand, they got rid of almost $11 million in salary and nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and you see the Nationals, unfortunately, right now, their minor league system is not very strong. So they need these kids to strengthen up the farm system. They need to figure out what they're going to do about Trey Turner and Soto. Do you sign both? Do you sign one? They need to figure that stuff out. Schwarber, he's on a tear. He was really rolling. He got the hamstring injury. I think he'll still be around. 'Cause I just got breaking news coming across my phone, Gary. The Yankees just got Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs.
Yeah, I
So,
just saw that too.
so I think Schwarber will probably make it through the rest of the season. I just think the Washington Nats do not have enough gas in them to overtake the National League East. I don't think they can catch the Mets. I mean, it's a very weak division, or they can't catch the Phils. I just think that they're not a top of the line Eastern Division team this year.
No. I'll admit that one. Well, we got to wrap it up quickly. Let's as training camps open, Aaron Rodgers is back at Packers camp. Big deal or not?
I think this is going to be one of the most intriguing and fun seasons in Green Bay, Wisconsin that you'll ever see, Gary. His interview yesterday, his press conference, it had to be a journalist's delight because
he
was so honest, so brutally honest about everything, and so matter of fact in his answers. I think if they stay healthy, I think they will be contenders, as always. I think Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They got Randall Cobb to come back in. That's going to help him in the slot position, as Rodgers said. They had Devontae Adams. He's a very good wide receiver. I think they can make a run. I really do. But within that run, my goodness, Aaron Rodgers is going to have a lot to say, my friend. A lot to say.
Yeah. And more power to him for having that kind of power and putting it to good use. I do think this is a last stand for Rodgers in Green Bay. That window was there last year. Tampa Bay and Tom Brady took it away from him. And again, right now it's all or nothing for Green Bay. And I do think that in Rodgers coming back, he basically demonstrated how much juice he has up there, and bringing back Reggie Cobb, that might be kind of the piece that he needs to make this happen.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. And man, it's getting close to football season now, Gary. The teams are in training camp. Hey, man, I'm getting excited.
Yeah.
I mean, even college football. But then again, is there a college football team in Kentucky? Is there a college team?
Anyway, we're out of time this week, folks. We will get to that next week, and hopefully by then, John Webster will be able to answer a question about whether my alma mater at the University of Maryland, whether they are still even playing college football, let alone trying to compete, in the Big Bad 10. Folks, we appreciate your support. Again, tell your friends and family about this podcast, spread the word, and come back and see us again next time. John, Take it easy. John Pitt, thank you again for all your hard work and keeping us in line and getting stuff out there.
Hey, I enjoyed it as always. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.